Good afternoon, everyone. How are you? Good, good. Welcome to the 2024 John Chancellor Award ceremony. You can just kind of... Yay! I have to work with you all today, okay? I know. I am Jelani Cobb, Dean of Columbia Journalism School. I am very happy to see you all here today. We have a number of distinguished prizes and awards that we administer at Columbia Journalism School. I'm not supposed to play favorites, but I will say I do have the longest history with Chancellor, so that's how I will finesse that. And it's really exciting to see so many of you I haven't seen, in some time, and so it's great to have this reason to come together to celebrate a truly outstanding journalist. Where is Raney? There. Yeah. And through this, to more broadly celebrate the best of journalism and our profession. This year, we're coming together at a pivotal time in a pivotal time for the country to bestow an award that specifically honors courage in journalism. I'm reminded once again of Little Rock, Arkansas, where a young man named Ira Lipman met a journalist named John Chancellor and became his source during another challenging time, the desegregation of Little Rock High School in the fall of 1957. Courage was essential, the courage to bear witness and report the facts. That courage is the foundation for this gathering today. Courage and integrity. This is what we instill in our students. And this is an important moment where they can learn both from the events around them and from innovative leaders in journalism like Raney Aronson-Rath. This award honors the legacy of one of the great broadcast journalists, John Chancellor. It was established in 1995 by Ira A. Lipman. He was a great friend and generous supporter of journalism and a good friend of mine. We have a kind of unofficial tradition here at the Chancellor Awards because those of us who knew I got to spend any time with Ira Lipman knew that he favored the color purple, and so the color, the actual color, not the book. I don't know his opinions of the book, but that is why we have the lavender table setting here each year. And is also why I wear a purple tie each year for this event. I see a number of other people have some purple accent as well. He played a critical role in my coming to Columbia University in 2016. Unfortunately, Ira passed away in 2019, and this is also an opportunity to remember him and his legacy. In addition to this award, Ira also created the Ira A. Lipman Center for Journalism and Civil and Human Rights here at the Journalism School. The center convenes leaders in journalism and civil and human rights and conducts research around social justice issues. I had the honor of being the inaugural director of the Lipman Center. I'm happy to have my successor, Robe Embriano, here with us today as well. Now please join me in welcoming today's honoree, Raney Aronson-Rath. She is the editor-in-chief and executive producer of FRONTLINE, the flagship documentary series on PBS. She is an alumna of Columbia Journalism School. Yeah. And serves as the chair of our board of visitors. She is, as we like to call them, one of our success stories. I was like, this is an interesting line. I was like, most of our people are success stories. She gives back in many ways, often coming to speak to our students, including right after this luncheon, and I will say she sets the bar for them pretty high. The way we report the news has changed dramatically since she was here as a student, Raney has seized the opportunity to not only adapt, but to lead the charge. And I'm reminded of the first time that I met Raney, which was at the outset of a project that Anya Borg, and Anya's over here somewhere. Yeah, Anya and James Jacoby, the Frontline documentary on policing in Newark, which I met them and we were talking, and somehow they roped me into participating in this documentary. And I was like, okay, so we're doing this project. And it was like, you have to meet Raney. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, but it had like this kind of really serious kind of gravitas to it, like you have to meet Raney. And we went to the Frontline offices and we talked. And, I, as a person who had been, kind of accustomed to doing one form of journalism, print journalism, I really did not understand very much about the documentary world. And I was immediately impressed with Raney's ability to convey the way in which the form, the things that I knew translated into this new form. And also over time came to grow an enormous amount of respect for just how hands-on she is with all of the projects that that are in various stages of production in Frontline. And so it's been amazing to develop this professional relationship and to be able to actually call her a friend as well. And so congratulations, Raney. A special welcome to all friends, family, and colleagues from Frontline who are here to mark your accomplishments. We are fortunate to have a truly stellar lineup of friends and colleagues here to pay tribute to you and your career. Before we get started, I'd like to welcome some other special guests. We have several past John Chancellor Award winners with us today. Welcome back. I'd like to thank the prizes department for putting this event together, Abby Wright and Lisa Cohen. And also thank you to the Chancellor Award Selection Committee for sharing their insights and values. So if members of the selection committee would please stand. I'm also a member of that committee. I'm standing already. Welcome to John Chancellor's daughter, Mary, and his grandson, Michael Gregory. Oh, there you are, over there. Good to see you as well. And Ira's sons are with us as well, Ira Littman's sons. Ben, there's Ben over here, and Gus Littman. There's Gus. Is Josh here today? He's on his way. Josh is on his way, so Josh is en route. And so welcome to Josh when he arrives. And so welcome everyone. When Ira brought the John Chancellor Award to Columbia in 2005, he had the foresight to create the John Chancellor Scholarship as well. Since then, more than 18 students with outstanding academic achievement and leadership qualities, and the leadership qualities of John Chancellor have received this scholarship. This year's Chancellor Scholar is Manuel Schoenstuhl. He is a Fulbright scholar, originally from Germany, who is an MS student here at Columbia. In his free time, he is also a voice actor. Welcome, Manuel. There you are. I'm tempted to say, come to the microphone and say something impressive. Supporting the next generation of journalists is a meaningful way to support a vibrant, free press. Now let's take a minute to remember John Chancellor in this short video, profiling John Chancellor's life as a reporter and anchor at NBC News, narrated by Tom Brokaw.
This is an essay on journalism, coming to you now from NBC News in New York, written by me, a reporter who's been around for a while. That's called a lead. Who, what, when, and where.
John Chancellor talking about his favorite subject. Hello, I'm Tom Brokaw. Journalism was always more than just a job to John. It was a craft, a calling, a civic duty. John loved being a reporter, and he devoted himself to it all of his professional life. He cared about the fundamentals, and his work was distinguished by uncommon clarity and restraint. All that made him a shining example to so many of us who followed. And John's values are embodied to this day in the award that bears his name. He didn't start as an anchorman. John's first love was print, Chicago newspapers, and it shaped his world.
This is John Chancellor on the 23rd floor of the Conrad Hilton.
He got into television when it was new, brought what he learned about journalism with him, and never forgot it.
The number of guards with the 9 Negro students has been considerably diminished.
John's civil rights reporting from Little Rock not only set a standard for television news, it won the respect of his print competitors as well.
I'm in custody.
And remember his famous line as he was escorted off the floor of the 1964 Republican Convention?
This is John Chancellor somewhere in custody.
Well, here's what he said on the air just before that.
I formally say that this is a disgrace, that the press should be allowed and the radio and television should be allowed to do their work at a convention on television.
It was no joke to John. There was a journalistic principle involved. He witnessed and reported on lots of history during his years on the air.
What we saw is impossible to forget and necessary to remember.
John Chancellor was among the best-known journalists in the world, but by choice and by temperament, he always took a back seat to the story itself.
There are many perplexities about this conflict.
He was determined to know and understand and explain the events of the day. To John, that was a public trust, and it was his passion.
There's a little secret about journalism. We would do it for free if that were possible, but they actually pay us to do it.
Since 1995, the John Chancellor Award for Excellence in Journalism has helped keep those values alive by recognizing them in others, some of the most talented, if not always the best-known journalists of our time. I know that John would be impressed with all of them and proud that they have been honored in his name. So, a final word of advice to us all from John himself.
Get it right. Do the job the way it's supposed to be done. There's an old saying in Chicago journalism that applies here. You say your mother loves you, check it out.
I always cringe a little bit when we show this video at the line where he says, "We would do it for free," and because in the back of my mind I was like, "You might yet," but it hasn't come to that yet. So please enjoy your lunch, and we will be back shortly with our program honoring Raney Aronson-Rath. Everyone who knows me knows that I'm a native of Queens. The reason everyone knows that is that I will not shut up about Queens. So I'm always talking about Queens. And so I always find some segue, some perfect segue that gives me an excuse to talk about Queens. Like, I have really found one more perfect than this, which is that as we were kind of milling around and talking, I came to the I was given the amazing information that Raney's dad and uncle are alumni of Jamaica High School in Queens, which is also my high school. So, right. So Jamaica High School is in the house officially. Welcome back, everyone. And now to our program honoring Raney Aronson-Rath. Unlike most other journalism prizes, this award honors sustained excellence and recognizes reporters who often work in the trenches or behind the scenes, who have shown a commitment over time to covering difficult subjects. Presidential elections is just one example, with courage and integrity. The John Chancellor Award honors journalists who consistently produce the highest quality reporting, day in and day out, without compromise. Journalists with courage and integrity, whose work has had a significant impact for the public good. Raney Aronson-Rath is certainly one such journalist. As executive producer since 2015 at PBS's flagship investigative journalism series, Raney oversees Frontline's acclaimed investigative reporting and directs the series' editorial vision, executive producing more than 20 in-depth documentaries each year on critical issues facing the country and the world. She has expanded Frontline's reporting capacity and spearheaded an initiative to bolster local journalism in news deserts. She has guided Frontline's evolution from a long-standing television program to a timely, multi-platform news organization that is committed to uncovering vital stories and telling them in new ways. This award recognizes courage. Not just the courage to hold power to account in tough investigative projects, which Frontline has always been known for, but also the courage to experiment with these new formats at a time when Americans are harder and harder to reach. As you've heard, the John Chancellor Award is unique in that it honors journalists who often work behind the scenes and who aren't usually household names. I'd like to say a few words about the unsung hero behind the scenes, about the unsung hero / behind the scenes job known as producer. A news producer is the person who's responsible for everything working out and who takes the fall if it doesn't. A producer does a lot, if not most of the work, but we never see their face on the screen or hear their voice. If they're lucky, their name appears at the end, flying by in the credits. As a person who has sometimes relied on a producer to make me look and sound my best, I know how important they are. I sound like I'm talking about my therapist. But that too. In Raney's case, she's not just a producer, she's also the boss. As a leader, that's a heavy, heavy burden, and she carries it well. A little bit about Raney's trajectory. She arrived on this campus in 1994 after living in Taiwan for 3 years. After earning her bachelor's degree from the University of Wisconsin and her master's from Columbia Journalism School, Raney worked at ABC News and the Wall Street Journal. She began producing for Frontline in 2002 and was named Deputy Executive Producer by David Fanning, the series' founder, in 2012, before becoming Executive Producer in 2015. A thought leader in both documentary filmmaking and investigative journalism, Raney was selected to serve as the board chair for the Pulitzer Prize's first ever audio reporting category. She lives in Boston with her husband Aaron and her two children, Mira and Arjun. Sorry. Let's take a look at some highlights from Raney's career in this video that Frontline put together.
Raney, take one.
Journalism with storytelling was my dream.
What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get us closer to the truth.
The stunning Hopkins 24/7.
I was in the pediatric intensive care unit.
To watch him very, very slowly get worse. And there's just nothing we can do but wait and hope.
It showed me the kind of work I wanted to do in long form. I really wanted to work for Frontline. You know, it was one of those profound moments.
So when you were actually in the brothel, you did not know about HIV?
I feel better than I've ever felt. So obviously something's working.
That our rights were derived from God.
The real danger for the men and women returning is that they could be forgotten.
The assault on abortion rights is very clever. It's very smart. And we are losing.
There's a dire need for institutions that tell the truth and that chase it at all costs.
This is my moment to introduce you to the next executive producer of Frontline, Raney Aronson.
Every role I've had at Frontline has been a privilege. It's my promise to all of you. Important ideas matter.
They're as scared of the militias as they are of ISIS.
I need you to understand what we are fighting for.
I'm Maria Ressa. We demanded the government be held accountable.
These players come down with dementia and then Alzheimer's, and then they're gone.
Investigative journalism is about challenging people in positions of power.
The time for games has passed.
Did the regime kill Jamal Khashoggi?
It was a show of power and control.
Is he not recognizing the importance of his platform?
They made a deeply unethical decision.
Russian soldiers killed my husband.
With all this death and destruction, it's hard not to look back and say, where did the road turn? The second guessing is haunting.
What I think Frontline's really amazing is reporting on domestic issues.
It's tough because my mom and dad are poor.
Can't conduct yourself like a human being when they treat you like an animal.
I can't run through fire, and he said you're gonna have to.
Can this be done in a way that still respects people's rights?
It doesn't feel like we're essential. It feels like we're slaves.
We definitely are the modern militia. We're the ones crazy enough to actually do something.
The officers understood that the weapon was a war-style weapon.
The president's intent was to stay in power at all costs.
This is, for Donald Trump, a chance to go out the winner he must be.
Kamala Harris demands respect. If it's not given to her, she demands it.
I wonder about the American dream. I haven't seen anybody in my neighborhood come from rags to riches.
Reimagining a news organization in the digital age.
Very quickly took positions on Judge Kavanaugh.
What is the advice you're hearing from the doctors?
They're saying get ready because this is very, very real and to prepare.
You must tell the whole story, the complete story.
At Frontline, we're in constant conversation about our journalistic values. As with all good journalism, it's not easy. That happens because of the extraordinary talent and dedication of those who make Frontline. And of course, our partners in the journalistic collaborations that have become a mainstay.
And the Oscar goes to 20 Days in Maricopa.
Cinema forms memories, and memories form history.
We are all unified by the single pursuit of clear-eyed, fair, and tough journalism.
Congratulations, Raney. Now to our program. We have 5 speakers, friends and colleagues of Raney's, to help us mark this special occasion. I'd like to invite everyone who is speaking about Raney to please come up to the stage. We're going to go chronologically, as is the custom with this award. And so you can come up this way, you can come up this way. While they're coming up, I will point out one thing that I think is interesting, that if you want a testament to the breadth of Raney's career and her impact, is to watch this video again and count the number of people who are in this room, who are featured, who are not part of this, like just coincidentally, but we have all participated in some way, shape, or form, or been impacted by Raney's insight. And so that's, I was sitting there counting and going, yeah, and then there I am, you know. Yeah, like 10 pounds ago. So we will start with someone who met Raney early on in her career at ABC News. Betsy West is a professor emerita of Columbia Journalism School, a journalist and a filmmaker. She's directed 2 DuPont Columbia Award-winning films with CJS alum Julie Cohen, class of 1989, including RBG, an Oscar-nominated documentary about Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. In 2018, when we screened the documentary in this very room, RBG herself made an appearance. Betsy joined the Columbia faculty in 2009 after working 3 decades in network news as a multiple award-winning producer and executive at ABC and CBS News, Please welcome Betsy West.
Hi, everybody. So happy to be here. Congratulations, Raney. I'm really thrilled to be able to talk to you a little bit about those early days when I was the boss. Just remember, I did. I met Raney in the mid-1990s, shortly after I became the executive producer of the ABC News documentary program Turning Point. I have to say that was back in the day when many of us thought that a long-form documentary series could survive on commercial television network. Well, you know, it did survive for 4 years, and it served as a great training ground for many people, and I think Raney first and foremost. At Turning Point, Raney started, I wrote as a production associate, but she just reminded me that she was a senior production associate. And she quickly distinguished herself. Once, she and a small team ventured into the jungles of Colombia to report on a story about the guerrilla group FARC, only to face, I was told, an accusation that one of her team was actually a CIA agent. I'm not exactly sure how, but she managed to talk her way out of a very dangerous situation. Raney is nothing if not persuasive. She was also an early adopter of new technology, as you saw in that video with the little babies, with the small video cameras that came into use in the late 90s and really kind of ushered in a boom in intimate verite shooting. It was around about that time that Raney had her own personal turning point. I mean, I think she saw the handwriting on the wall. Celebrity journalism was on the rise, and opportunities were waning in the commercial television world to produce Raney's kind of thoughtful, long-form reporting. And so on to Frontline and the distinguished career, which you will hear more about from later speakers. I didn't know it back in the day, but Raney and I recently learned that we both grew up in small northern New England towns. I think childhoods that fueled a desire to get out and experience the world. I mean, as you heard, Raney learned South Asian languages and in her early career worked for a small English language daily in Taiwan. But I want to say that I think our New England roots had another even stronger impact. The sense of community, you know, living in a remote town where people rely on each other, even people who don't necessarily see eye to eye. And also living in a place that has a very strong tradition of direct democracy. You know, both Raney's home state of Vermont and mine, the state of Maine, were and continue to be practitioners of the town meeting, gatherings where everyday citizens have a direct vote on local questions. This is one of the political traditions that Alexis de Tocqueville talked about and admired so much when he visited America in the early 1800s. I looked it up, popular matters of legislation in early town meetings in Vermont included whether or not to let pigs run free, or whether smallpox vaccinations should be allowed in the town. Apparently, back then, some thought that vaccinations were too dangerous. Of course, people need good information on which to base their votes, whether in a heated town meeting or in a presidential election. It has been the underpinning of our democracy from its early days. And in choosing to become a journalist, in fostering and overseeing an outstanding body of work at Frontline, Raney has become one of our country's staunchest supporters of our democracy. She and her colleagues are providing the information that citizens need to participate in the important decisions we have the privilege to make. In the challenging days ahead, their work could not be more important, more essential. It has been my privilege to work and collaborate with Raney and to be her friend over the years. I believe that this well-deserved award is a sign of our thanks to her and our commitment to support the independent journalism our country requires more than ever. Thank you.
Betsy suppressed the urge to include the joke about that time in Colombia by saying, "What the fark?" All right, I'll see myself out now.
You see why I didn't.
Our next speaker is the managing editor of FRONTLINE, Andrew Metz. With Raney, he oversees the editorial mission for FRONTLINE, working with journalists to develop and produce original stories, including managing collaborations with the series' many journalism partners. Throughout his career, he has been an award-winning newspaper and television journalist, reporting foreign, national, and local stories. Between 2006 and 2013, he worked at the CBS program 60 Minutes, where he was a frequent producer for Leslie Stahl, as well as other correspondents on the broadcast. Please welcome Andrew Metz.
Thank you, Jelani. Greetings, friends, family of Raney, colleagues from FRONTLINE and elsewhere. It's actually quite an honor to be able to speak about Raney on the occasion of receiving this award. But first, I have a disclaimer I have to get out of the way. I got the QR code, but I wasn't actually asked to come up here and speak today. Okay, so you see, a few months ago, Raney and I were talking about how she was getting the Chancellor Award and how she'd asked these very esteemed women across different points in her career to give short remarks. I remember being very impressed with the lineup and saying how fun it would be to come and to listen. And then, of course, we got back to work. Some weeks later, Lisa Cohen sent an email. "Thank you for agreeing to speak on Raney's behalf." There you go, in a nutshell, is a classic Raney Aronson experience. We are all in some ways along for an incredible and sometimes unexpected ride. For me, that ride started 25 years ago in Washington, D.C. We were both Vermonters, as Betsy pointed out, newly installed reporting fellows at the Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies. At that point, I was still clinging to my print dreams. She was already preaching the gospel of long-form documentary and manifesting an illustrious career as a journalist filmmaker. She told me as much in what, looking back, was my first exposure to her powers, her immense powers of perception and persuasion. So began a friendship and a wide-ranging conversation that over the years has come back to one question. How did we get here? How did two kids from Vermont end up here? As I mentioned, the circumstances of me ending up here a little murky, but with Raney, honestly, it's no surprise to those of us who've been watching her career. I've had a front row seat for a number of years now to her curiosity and tenacity as a journalist, to her leadership steering FRONTLINE through these tumultuous times, and to her picture-by-picture, line-by-line, judgment-by-judgment work that has made every FRONTLINE a better film and a better piece of journalism. So Raney, of course, will tell her story more completely, maybe more accurately, but in my own search for answers to our shared question, one moment, courtesy of her mother, really struck a chord with me, and I bet it will for many of you too. It was very early in Raney's career, the 1970s, Burlington, Vermont. Raney was 2. She was accompanying her mother to drop off her older brother at preschool. As her mom described it, Raney's eyes were wide. She was energized by the people, the social setting, the intellectual challenges. After taking it all in, she said to her mom, "I want to go here." Her mother explained, apparently, that you had to be 3. But that didn't seem to faze Raney. She took matters into her own hands, caught the teacher's attention, and repeated, "I want to come here. I want to come here now." Suffice to say, the UVM preschool suddenly had a new special program for 2-year-olds. And Raney was the inaugural, and I'm told the only student for a time. Raney, my friend, here's to your transcending ability to take matters into your own hands, to make things happen in the most extraordinary ways, and to bring us all along on the journey. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, Andrew. Our next speaker is Raney's boss, Paula Kerger. Paula is the longest serving president and CEO in PBS history. PBS is the nation's largest non-commercial media organization, representing more than 330 member stations throughout the country. Over 17 years, Paula has led the transformation of PBS from broadcasting into digital media. Prior to joining PBS, Kerger served for more than a decade at the Educational Broadcasting Corporation, the parent company of 13 WNET and WLIW 21 New York. Please welcome Paula Kerger.
Well, if I was invited to speak because I'm Raney's boss, then I'm here under false pretenses for sure. I think we all serve Raney. I was thinking as I was writing up from DC today, I have hoped that Raney would get this recognition for a number of years. I submitted her a number of times, and for various reasons, you picked other wonderful people, just not our Raney. I didn't nominate you this time, and they picked you. I don't know what that says. But what I do know is that I felt that this is a perfect moment for you to be honored, and I feel, as I'm sure everyone in this room feels, that this is a moment we all need. We need a moment of hope and belief in possibility, because that's what you offer to all of us. And I'm so privileged to speak about you, not just as a colleague, but as a friend who means so very much to me. You are just so very dear, and you are so extraordinarily talented. You know, when you're the CEO of PBS, people sometimes ask you what they think the softball question is in an interview. Of course, all the journalists in this room would never do that. What's your favorite TV show on PBS? It's like, who's going to answer that without, running the risk of sending every producer into therapy if you don't pick them? But I realized, actually, in my first months at PBS, that I knew the perfect answer. I'm not going to tell you what my favorite show is, though maybe it is. I'm not picking my favorite child. But what I do know is that the most important show that we do is Frontline. And I've consistently answered that question in the same way because I believe it. Under Raney's leadership, Frontline has reached new heights, and as many media organizations are retrenching in their commitment to investigative journalism, retreating to stories of crime and celebrities, Frontline stands apart from any other. And building on the extraordinary foundation that David created, she has taken the series to great new heights. She's not only been deeply committed to the mission and the purpose of the series as it was originally envisioned, but she's brought her own excellence to it and has challenged herself and all the others that work alongside of her to think about not only long-form video, as we've always appreciated on television, but to really think about how do you connect to audiences and meet them where they are. No one in public media does it better than Raney, and we are all learning from her. At a moment when our country is deeply divided, Frontline continues to be watched, and this is important for everyone to know, continues to be watched by people across the political spectrum. And she is very thoughtful and proactive in ensuring that that's the case. She has been involved in some leading edge work in this area, and if you don't know about it, ask her, and she will tell you, because that's the other great thing about Raney. She is so generous in not only experimenting in lots of different ways, but in sharing what she learns, not just the successes, but also when things don't work out quite so well. She is in many ways the person that has galvanized so much of the work that has happened in public media. And she is deeply committed to shining that bright light in dark corners and holding the powerful to account. We see the impact of Raney's work everywhere, from the climate lawsuits that have been filed against big oil companies to the legislation protecting undocumented farm workers from assault. Raney has made a tangible difference in the lives of people across this country and around the world. And while Frontline has been recognized with every major award in journalism, including a precious moment that she and I had when Frontline was honored with an Oscar for 28 Days in Mariupol. What impresses me the most is Raney's constant, unrelenting commitment to innovation. Despite being at the top of her game, she's always looking for new ways to learn and grow. From her fellowship at MIT, when she went to the Media Lab and was surprised when some of the other fellowship participants asked her about being in that legacy media, she came out of it with the energy and the inspiration to propel us forward. I've watched with great admiration, I should have taken that cup of coffee, as she has pushed the boundaries with virtual reality and with live interactive experiences that was captured beautifully in that film. And is always looking at ways to expand the work and to make sure that we are reaching people where they are. And by the way, all the places that she's putting content, including YouTube, she's brought in a much younger audience and a very engaged audience, and not people that are watching 3-minute and 5-minute clips, long form, that are appreciating the care of the journalism that we want to make sure that we are pushing as wide as possible. You know, I believe that when the history of public broadcasting is fully told, Raney will shine as a great example of the best of our industry. She is an extraordinary journalist and someone who continues to lead the way in shaping the future of journalism in this country. She is everything that LBJ hoped for when he signed the Public Broadcasting Act. And I know for certain that while this is a great recognition for her, her greatest work sits ahead. Congratulations, my dear friend.
Thank you, Paula. Next, we will hear from Dawn Porter. Dawn is an American documentary filmmaker and founder of the production company Trilogy Films. Her award-winning documentaries have appeared everywhere. Where haven't they appeared? The Sundance Film Festival, HBO, CNN, Netflix, Hulu, and PBS, just to name a few. She has made biographical documentaries about historical figures, including Bobby Kennedy, but well, the first, that one.
Thank you.
Sorry. Nothing else, I'm saying nothing else. Vernon Jordan and John Lewis. Just last month, she was awarded the National Arts and Humanities Medal at the White House, at a White House ceremony. And here's a fun fact. She started as a corporate litigator and the director of standards and practices at ABC News and A&E before becoming a filmmaker in 2010. Please welcome Dawn Porter.
Getting to back cleanup here is kind of tough, so I will try and add and tell you maybe some things, some observations that I have. When I think about Raney, she is a journalist. She's intelligent, compassionate, ultimately fearless. In the many, many years that I've known her, I've marveled at her strength and commitment to a fair press. In this time when the challenges we face feel literally insurmountable, her courage and tenacity are of the utmost importance. I cannot think of anyone more deserving of this recognition, and I am deeply grateful to be able to talk about my experiences with her. We actually first knew each other back at ABC when she was more than a senior PA, but in the midst of her journey. And I watched with curiosity when she went to Frontline and thought, what path is she going to forge there? This was a really important time when, if we look back, when the story about news is written, and when we think about some really important times, it's when, I think some of the news networks really stopped doing the long form investigative work and really started to look to stories that were more popular with the public. And so I was watching with interest when Raney went to Frontline, which was, we thought, a smaller platform, but it ended up being one of the most critical. And there, what I want to tell you about is her leadership. Raney has just an indefatigable, I think I pronounced that right because I practiced it a few times. She has just never said no to a challenge. And if that means raising more money, finding more airtime, finding new reporters, or talking herself into nursery school, she just figures it out. I've often asked myself, how does she do it? How does she not become exhausted? She doesn't snap at you when you bring her a really, really tough problem. She always says, let's figure it out. And so, as we move forward, I know that you just heard all these wonderful things about her, but I hope you really heard them, because I would like to ask each of us in this room, let's not let her be the exception. Let's all challenge ourselves to find just a tenth of her courage, her wisdom, and her patience, because I do think we are in for such a difficult time for honesty and truth, and it is going to take 100 Raneys in order for us to meet this moment and this challenge. The final things I want to say are, while she's doing all of this so beautifully and elegantly and respectfully, there's a real love for journalism and truth and fairness and being kind to people while we do it. She's also a terrific mother. She has just as many posts about your accomplishments in music and sports. I have never met her children in person, and yet I know them very well. It is hard to resist congratulating them on their accomplishments now, because I know that that is the worst possible outcome for a child. But I think that I know that you are proud of your mother. And I know that one of her greatest joys is watching you face your own paths, but both of your parents, I think, in large part are motivated by what they can show you, this next generation, that we have not given up on you, and as adults, our obligation to you. And so I truly honor you, my friend, and you inspire me every day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dawn. Now it is the tradition of this award to hear from someone with a different perspective on our honoree, someone who has known the winner in a different capacity than just as a journalist. In this case, today, it is someone who is both a journalist and a Nobel Prize winner. Very Queens, just said winner. Nobel Prize winner, Maria Ressa. In October 2021, Maria was one of 2 journalists awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in recognition of her efforts to safeguard freedom of expression, which is a precondition for democracy and lasting peace. For decades, she reported for CNN and other outlets in Jakarta and Manila before co-founding Rappler in 2012, a digital news site leading the fight for press freedom in the Philippines. As Rappler's CEO and president, Maria Ressa has endured constant political harassment and arrests by the Duterte government. She's been forced to post bail 10 times to stay free. Rappler's battle for truth and democracy is the subject of the 2020 Sundance Film Festival documentary, 1,000 Cuts. She is currently a professor of professional practice at Columbia School of International and Public Affairs. Maria Ressa couldn't be with us today, but did pre-record her remarks.
Congratulations to Raney and to the team behind the Chancellor Award. What a fantastic choice. A woman with vision, sorely needed in our industry today, with an unparalleled clarity of thought and focused intelligence. She's also an excellent manager. We need those unsung heroes because of her empathy. I first met Raney because Frontline was among the first to heed the warning coming from the other side of the world. I've appeared a few times on the show. I always joke I feel like Cassandra and Sisyphus combined. Raney listened to these warnings, the information warfare I was subjected to, 90 hate messages per hour, and she realized that what happened to us is coming for you. And now it has. I speak as a leader of a news organization at a time when journalism is mired in quicksand, when we've lost our gatekeeping powers to big tech, and managing a news group requires courage and vision. Raney's vision is unique. She's a young woman. I can say that because I'm 61. She's the next generation news leader who has lived in many parts of the world, has walked in the shoes of the often silenced, underrepresented. She sees the patterns and trends and helps bring them to the public and to her team. I've seen her with old-style news managers, some men, who have forgotten news power is now like our vestigial tail. We no longer have the power to dictate. She listened quietly and deftly moved the conversation in new ways, not confrontational, but collaboratively. She knows something is wrong, and she's actively searching for what will save our industry. Courage is another trait. But she knows that confrontation isn't always the best path forward. Her clarity of thought means she makes quick decisions and focuses on what matters. That's important at a time when we can measure infinite numbers and go down many rabbit holes. The last trait I mentioned, empathy, is often not emphasized enough. But whether it's in reporting or in management, and the difficult task of building a team during these fractious and fractured times, empathy may be her superpower. I'm so proud to call her a friend, and I know she has the back of every journalist in the trenches in the battle for facts, truth, and trust. It's still a real question today whether journalism will survive the relentless onslaught of big tech. But Raney, leading Frontline, will keep us on track in this battle we must win. Because democracy as we know it will not survive without excellent investigative journalists. Congratulations again, Raney, for your leadership, your focus, and the empathy that holds us all together.
And now we will present the 2024 John Chancellor Award. I would like to invite Gus, Josh, and Ben Lipman to join me to present the award.
In 1957, the Arkansas National Guard was called out to prevent African American children from entering Central High School in Little Rock. To cover the event, NBC sent a young journalist named John Chancellor. Our father, Ira A. Lipman, became a source for John Chancellor on what was happening at Central High. John Chancellor was our insurance policy, our protection against the world's injustices. Through his reporting, John Chancellor dispelled lies and ignorance. For the first time, the new age of television journalism enabled the world to see the ugliness of racial hatred. And the result was a great advance for the cause of civil rights. That's why journalism is so important today and will be in the future. It is our first line of defense against those who would subject the world to lies and ignorance. By spreading light and truth, journalists have the power and influence to make the world a better place to live in. Not just for a few, but for millions or even billions. But it takes courage, character, and integrity. John Chancellor had that courage. Raney Aronson-Rath does too. John Chancellor is our hero. He was our father's hero at age 16 in Little Rock, and he is still our hero because he represents the truth. When he agreed to permit us to establish the John Chancellor Award for Excellence in Journalism, he envisioned rewarding the kind of journalism that would say to successive generations, this is the sort of work to which we should dedicate our lives. Raney Aronson-Rath's work meets that test. She has championed the principles that make society more hospitable to both tolerance and truth. Raney, we honor the memory of John Chancellor by honoring your work. You have our admiration and gratitude for your contributions to journalism and to society. Would you please come forward?
I can read it.
There you go.
Thank you so much.
Okay. You have to wear it.
Oh, I have to wear it?
Yeah.
Oh. My son would know this, by the way.
That's the rule. Okay.
Oh, thank you so much.
And now we will hear a few words from our honoree, Raney Aronson-Rath, the 2024 John Chancellor Award recipient.
Well, Jelani said a few words, but I have a few pages. But I thought, since I had to listen to everyone, it was terrible for me, that I would take some time and thank people, because it's really the most important thing for me to do right now. Thank you so much, Dean Cobb, Jelani, and for your work. Betsy, that was amazing, your research. And she's still my boss. Dawn, thank you so much. Paula, as always, and Andrew, you made me cry, and I really promised myself I wouldn't. And thanks for talking to Andrew, Mom, as you were pickling beets. Maria, of course, is a friend, and I admire her so deeply, and her thoughts were invigorating, and I hope you all felt that too. I love Dawn's idea that we can all take a role in this. All of us can play a role in this, and all of us need to. Your thoughts are humbling, they're meaningful, and you guys have really had a profound impact on my life and career. I want to thank the whole Chancellor jury. Thank you for sticking with me. I appreciate it. Abby and Lisa, you're both amazing, and this is a very gratifying moment, as you can see. I'd like to acknowledge the other Chancellor winners who are here today. Donald McNeil, Maria Nahosa had to go teach a class. Masha Gessen, I'm going to come and find you if you're still here. And Marty Smith hope to be here as well. And of course, I want to just take a moment and dedicate this award to Oprah Bickel. She's a dear friend to so many of us, and she just passed away last summer. And I see people holding hands about her. She's really one of a kind. My colleagues in public media from PBS, Paula, Jonathan, and Sylvia, from CPB, Pat and Michael, and from GBH, Susan and John. I need to thank you more than ever for being the guardians of public media. And from Frontline. Okay,
This is your chance to stand up. Please, everyone from Frontline, would you just please stand up? There are a lot of people watching remotely, and I want to just thank every single one of you for being the backbone of what we do at Frontline, and the documentaries that we make, the journalism we produce, is literally a record of our time. And Mike Kirk and I talk about that often. What we are doing is a record of our time, and it's more important than ever. So, you've heard about my childhood. I didn't know you would. So my whole speech is actually about my childhood. And when I look at all of you and I do think back, I know that I didn't think I would be standing here, despite getting into preschool. I didn't know it. As you heard, I grew up in a small rural town. And in that town, I went to the public schools, and in our home, we didn't have a television. And we did have a radio. And that radio played often. And the journalists telling stories from around the world inspired me from the very beginning. And stories, in fact, were woven into all of our lives. We gathered as a family every single night. This isn't just propaganda, this is true. And we read family books together every single night. I remember those stories, I remember that time. And that was really our form of entertainment. My father would tell me and Adam stories, my big brother right there, magical stories, driving back between Boston and Vermont, back and forth to my mother's, to keep us awake and to keep us from arguing. Fair enough, Dad. Those stories, I would remember driving Arjun and Mira on those same roads. And Adam remembers them too. Those stories endure. Thank you. I would start to tell my own stories as a child, and my own audience was Maya. There she is, my younger sister. And she would listen, and the boys would run around us. I have a lot of brothers. And Maya would listen, and she was really my most captive audience. Thanks, Maya. And I continued to tell stories to pretty much anyone who would listen. A lot of you are in the audience, and a lot of my dreams that I shared, you all listened to. And that was really important for me to be able to share. And there was one person who listened to me patiently all those years and to this day, and that's my mother. Thanks, Mom. But it wasn't just storytelling. I believe in many ways the journalist I am today is because of Marilyn Childs. She was the debate coach in my small rural high school. Graduating class, by the way, was 21 kids. I had to fact check myself on that. And my debate partner from that time and a long life friend is here, Tia. Where are you? Nice to see you. She and I were on the front lines together way back. Mrs. Childs was my first real mentor. She challenged me to think critically about issues from all sides with facts as armor, and to challenge my own assumptions and biases. That was profound as a young person. Mrs. Childs also encouraged me to get into the world, and so I did. And those years traveling, especially in Asia, would change my life. While living in northern India in college, I watched students join a Hindu nationalist group, and they stormed the Ayodhya temple. And I tried to recount to my family, if you remember, on those blue aerogram letters, how I saw these students change. I saw them radicalize. It's not unlike what we're seeing around the world right now. It wasn't long when I was trying to make sense of another big dramatic upheaval, this time as a newspaper reporter in Taiwan. Watching people vote for the first time and writing about it was nothing short of extraordinary. Another experience watching a democracy form has echoes of relevance today. After Taiwan, it was on to graduate school here at Columbia, and the fateful accident of how journalism met documentary film in my life. I needed to work, so I got a job as a translator on a documentary series on an overnight shift. And that's why I could argue to be a senior PA, by the way. It was in the edit room with an assistant editor in the middle of the night that I fell in love with documentary film. I'll never forget one morning when I was still there, the producer said to me, "You know, you're a really bad translator." And I was sure I was going to be fired. I really thought I was. But then he said, "Do you want to be a PA?" And I never looked back. What a privilege to do this work, the marrying of journalism and documentary film. It's what I first did for Betsy. By the way, she shared the FARC story. I don't know if my parents even knew about that. I saw my dad's face look a little ashen. It's true. And I will say the reason is because Charlie Gibson was holding a suitcase. And he had this briefcase suitcase. It was very formal looking. So they actually thought he was with the CIA. So then I had to patiently get the entire village together, the village elders, to explain to them that he wasn't. And it was stressful, I won't lie. But I was fine. I'm doing fine, Dad. I'm here, right? It's all good. Mom, I'm here? Okay. All right. So then, of course, I moved on to Frontline. And Dawn, I didn't know you were watching. I do know there was a lot of questions. What am I doing going to Frontline at the time? And of course, I work for David Fanning, the founder of Frontline. I need to just stop here and thank David for his mentorship and for founding Frontline in the first place, and to just say something really important. His idea endures. I also must thank Lewis Wiley as well, the first editor of Frontline. I learned so much from him. So Frontline then and now is like nowhere else for me. It's a place where Mrs. Child's facts as armor ideology is baked into the DNA of what we do. How fortunate I have been to find this home, this special and so vital place, where thinking deeply, challenging assumptions, and going into the world armed with facts is what drives us all. This hasn't been easy, and definitely is not now. Consider the MIT research that Maria often points to, that lies spread 6 times faster than truth on social platforms. Yet, I truly feel as inspired and passionate about this mission as ever, and yes, even hopeful. I want to say a lot of the reason for that is because of my family. They're sitting right in front of me. Arun, my husband, by the way, 20 years ago, we were in Calcutta making a film together. It's been 20 years. Thank you for this journey. And my children, Arjun and Mira. My daughter is filming me. I love you. I really trust that you will find your place in the world and you'll do exactly what's right for you both. And Dawn is right that I celebrate you both as much as I do all of this work. And as we say in our family, just be you, okay? Back to work. There's a moment in the AP film, 20 Days in Mariupol, that I just want to share with you as a thought as we're ending this amazing couple of hours together. It's a moment when a very incredible Ukrainian police officer tells the director, Mstislav Chernov, "Your reporting spread. You did a big thing. Otherwise, no one would know what happened." Moments like that give me hope. And I know there are many countless more that have happened and will continue to happen, as long as we stay steady, stay fair, and stay curious. I will say at Frontline and writ large at PBS, facts will be our armor, and we will continue to tell the stories that need to be told. I will promise you that. In fact, we're all meeting right after this to discuss what we're doing next. True story. On the 7th floor. No, I'm kidding. It's actually true, but I'm not inviting you all. So as I stand here, I just want to say thank you. You do reinvigorate me and all of us here at Frontline, and thank you for believing in everything that we do.
Congratulations, Raney, and thank you everyone for coming out this afternoon. And so for everyone here, can you stay up for a second? We're going to take a photo, and as well as the Lipman brothers, and we will, just kind of socialize after.